That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is entertain.
It just takes a beloved movie and makes it much more boring and much less realistic. The movie is really, really bad.
Our rights are on the line, folks.
Bitch! The right to buy Cosby sweaters?
Come on.
That's the face of a serial killer.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button.
What happens when a fairy tale becomes a nightmare? Picture this. Disney, the king of blockbusters, pours hundreds of millions into a shiny new Snow White, banking on a beloved story and a rising star to pack theaters. But instead of magic, it's chaos. Theaters go dark, fans turn away, and the biggest cinema chain in America makes a move nobody saw coming. How did it all go so wrong? It wasn't just one misstep, it was a chain reaction of bold choices, fiery words, and a moment on live TV that left jaws on the floor. This is the story of a film that promised to reimagine a classic but ended up rewriting Disney's playbook in the worst way. Let's dive into the drama that brought a giant to its knees.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Say it louder so your other eye can hear you.
So we didn't do that this time.
Disney had every reason to believe Snow White would soar. A $270 million budget, dazzling visuals, and a cast blending fresh talent with A-list power. It was a recipe for success. The 1937 original wasn't just a cartoon, it was the spark that built an empire. So when the live-action remake hit screens in March 2025, expectations were sky high, but something was off. Opening weekend brought in a measly $42 million. Chump change for a Disney princess flick. By week 2, ticket sales crashed harder than a glass slipper. Theaters sat empty and whispers of trouble grew louder. Then came the bombshell. AMC, the nation's top cinema chain, yanked the film entirely. Not scaled back. Gone. It was a slap nobody expected, not least Disney, who'd banked on brand loyalty to carry the day. So what turned this dream project into a disaster? The cracks started forming long before the first ticket was sold.
But the primary suffering is being sent in by my company to watch a children's movie as a single man, like 2 p.m. on a Thursday. That was the first part that was a little bit weird, but I was basically the only person in the theater.
Enter Rachel Zegler, a 23-year-old star fresh off West Side Story. Her casting as Snow White felt like a coup. She had the voice, the charm, and a modern edge to draw in younger fans. Disney saw her as a bridge between old school magic and today's world, but not everyone was on board. The moment her name hit headlines, a storm erupted online. Some fans zeroed in on her Colombian-Polish roots, arguing Snow White, described as white as snow in the fairy tale, should look the part. It wasn't just a casting debate, it became a shouting match about representation and tradition. Zegler clapped back, refusing to bleach her skin for the role, a bold move that won her allies but also hardened critics. The film hadn't even started shooting, and already it was a lightning rod, but the real trouble was brewing in what she'd say next.
You don't particularly see people who, look like me or are me playing roles like that. So it was definitely when it got announced.
He wasn't a stalker, by the way.
Fast forward to 2022,
that was like trending on Twitter
Ziegler's
for
in the hot
days
seat
because all
again,
of the
this
people
time
were
for her words,
angry.
not her looks. In an interview, she didn't mince words about the 1937 Snow White. The prince, a stalker, she said. The story, extremely dated when it came to women's roles. Her vision for the remake was clear. Snow White wouldn't pine for love. She'd chase leadership, a queen in the making. For some, this was a refreshing take, a nod to empowerment, but for fans who grew up humming "Someday My Prince Will Come," it felt like a betrayal. Social media lit up with fury. Hashtags like "Number Not My Snow White" trended as people accused Zegler of trashing a classic to score points. Disney stayed quiet, hoping the buzz would fade. Instead, it grew louder, and Zegler was just getting started.
And so it was like
those people.
very much this, yes, It was this
people that we
awakening
need
of-
to educate, the people that we
By
need to
2024,
love
Ziegler's social media was a
into
battlefield.
awareness.
After the
Love him in the
Snow White
right
trailer
direction.
dropped, racking up 120 million views, she posted a thank you to fans on X, signing off with, "And always remember, free Palestine." The reaction was instant and brutal. Some cheered her stance, others called it a reckless move for a Disney star. Rumors swirled that producer Mark Platt flew to New York begging her to delete it. She didn't budge. Then came November, post-election, when Ziegler unleashed a fiery Instagram rant against Trump supporters, tossing in a censored F this for good measure. Disney's PR team was in freefall, unsure how to handle a star who refused to play ball. Whispers of tension with co-star Gal Gadot, an Israeli with IDF ties, didn't help. Fans speculated about on-set clashes, though nothing was confirmed. The film's hype was drowning in drama, and the worst was yet to come.
We need to no, you don't need, it's not your job. Your job is to entertain. You are paid to entertain.
Very few people wanted to see this. Even the little kids who like Disney movies, even they don't seem to be turning
Disney
up in
thought
droves
The
for
View
the
would be a
movie
safe
because
bet, a cozy
the movie
daytime
is
show to
really,
smooth things
really
over before
bad.
the premiere. They prepped Ziegler with talking points, highlight the film's heart, nod to the original, keep it light. But when the cameras rolled, Ziegler had other plans. She veered into politics, slammed the 1937 film as outdated, and told fans clinging to nostalgia to get with the times. Producers scrambled, flashing frantic signals off camera. Hosts Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar tried to pivot, but Ziegler doubled down, her words sharp and unfiltered. The segment spiraled into chaos. Staff cut her off, ushering her out as the show lurched to a commercial. Clips leaked online, and the internet exploded. Memes, hot takes, and outrage clips racked up millions of views. For Disney, it was a catastrophe, one moment that turned a fairy tale into a punchline.
And so I've got some bona fides here on being fair. The movie was absolutely terrible in every way
Snow
that the
White hit
movie
theaters,
differed from the
damage was
beloved
done.
1937
That $42
original.
million opening
It
was
was
bad
worse.
enough, but the second weekend was worse. A 66% plunge to $14 million. Stories trickled in of screenings with 1 or 2 viewers, popcorn crunching in eerie silence. Even kids, Disney's bread and butter audience, weren't showing up. Critics weren't kind either, slapping it with a 41% on Rotten Tomatoes and a jaw-dropping 1.5 on IMDb, fueled by review-bombing fans. The CGI dwarfs looked fake, the story felt flat, and Godot's evil queen got called wooden. Parents opted for safer bets like Minecraft, leaving Snow White to wither. The numbers didn't lie. This wasn't just a flop, it was a historic disaster, and theaters were about to make it official.
It basically, this movie was like you took the original Snow White and just put everything through this filter of liberalism. It wasn't through a filter of Japanese anime, it was through a filter of liberalism. So from the casting to the
AMC
class politics, the
had seen
sexual
enough. By
politics,
late March, with
the
seats
regime
staying
politics,
empty, the
everything
chain made
about
a
it was
call that
liberal.
shocked Hollywood. Snow White was out. No major Disney film had ever been pulled so fast. Managers reported customers bypassing posters without a glance, some muttering about that meltdown. Keeping it on screens meant losing money when other movies could sell tickets. For Disney, it was a gut punch. AMC's move wasn't just about numbers, it was a signal that even the Mouse House wasn't untouchable. Fans mocked the news online, sharing photos of deserted auditoriums. Industry insiders buzzed about strained ties between Disney and AMC, though neither side commented. The film's collapse was now undeniable, and questions were mounting about what Disney would do next.
Snow White is generally understood to be a very, very white person. And in this case, they decided, nope, no, that doesn't make any sense. So I don't think
didn't
that's
waste time licking
we're allowed to
wounds.
say that, right? I was
Word
referring
broke
to
that
the
a
movie
tangled
as
remake
sand
already
beige.
in the works was shelved, likely a direct response to Snow White's crash. Bob Iger, back at the helm, faced a tough road. Remakes had been cash cows, but fans were tired of reboots that felt like lectures. The Snow White fiasco proved loyalty only stretched so far. Meanwhile, Ziegler moved on, snagging a lead role in Evita on London's West End. Some saw it as a bold bold comeback, others wondered if Hollywood would hesitate to cast her again. Disney's next steps were anyone's guess. Would they double down on safer stories, or rethink their whole approach? One thing was clear, the magic wasn't automatic anymore, and that left everyone wondering what was coming.
It's no really knock on her. If you did the autobiography of Malcolm X, would you cast Tom Hanks? If you remade Moana, would you cast a little Irish guy? No, you wouldn't. So that was off the top.
It is not racist to suggest that a character who is described in the original as skin white as snow, that is literally how the character is described in the original, that's a character description in the same way that, as you mentioned in Moana, this bizarre fixation with race shifting everything, but only in one direction by Disney, obviously is quite strange.
Fans don't mess around with their classics. Rachel Zegler's fiery spirit lit up the controversy, but was she the real villain, or just a scapegoat for a studio out of touch? AMC's drastic move showed even giants can stumble when trust breaks down. This saga's got it all. Betrayal, backlash, and a live TV train wreck nobody's forgetting. So where does Disney go from here? Can they win back hearts? Or is the fairy tale magic fading for good? And what about Zegler? Will she rise again or carry this flop forever? Drop your thoughts below, because this story's far from over.